Hey guys, welcome to another episode of
Discovering Our Journey.
I'm your host, MC.
And I'm JC. And today it's just you and I talking about pretty much
pies.
Pies.
Pies. Who doesn't like pies?
Right?
Right?
Well, let us in on what the heck P.I.E.S is.
Pies is
acronym.
It's an acronym, that's right. So, sometimes we talk about relationships and we talk about the pies in relationships.
And it's important though, too, because you get with somebody, you say, I love you for this, but you know what? We're going to always change, right? Yeah. We're never going to see the same.
So basically, sometimes you have a partner that might, you guys are all going to be on different levels on stuff, but there's sometimes surprisingly, we might not be good at something or not aware of something. And when we get with somebody and we see something, we sometimes step up to the plate.
Yeah.
We step up to the plate and we start to be a little bit. So PI stands for different connections, which are physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual.
I like that. Where'd you learn that from?
I've got
therapy?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Actually, my wife is really smart.
She looked into that?
Yeah, she looked into that.
That's good. No, that's so necessary. Because, I learned, I didn't get that from therapy myself. What I did is, I started understanding, with the Word of God, how we're like plants, when you're expected to grow.
Yeah.
And just like a plant, I'm just like, man, why is my man acting like crazy? Because he's growing. He's throwing out information that he doesn't need. And he's starting to try to step up to, our kids' age as they're getting to teens and they're talking back, he's starting to try to find a resolution in himself, a solution for what's happening. And then, our daughter as well. And so it just, a lot of things that he's doing and I'm doing. And so sometimes I've noticed, man, you're going crazy. I know he thinks about that too on my side, right? We're both changing, but pies.
Yeah.
I like that.
So it's the levels of maturity in those areas are very important. I think there's actually one more, which is financial.
Oh, financial's huge.
I think so. It's just one of those things where you don't think of financial in a sense of where it's the maturity level that you are, because, at least for myself, we didn't have a lot growing up.
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes having, the understanding of money is so important.
Like, were you a spender? Like when you first started, with your job and stuff?
You know what? I kind of was, but not too much. Like I would save up to spend. So I wouldn't really save up too much. Mm-hmm. But then, I would save up to spend. Like, I want to do this, so I need this much. So what do I got to do? What do I got to sell? What I got,
Hey, well, that's good though.
How much do I have to work so I can, get this, so I can go do whatever I got to go do?
Yeah.
So I
was paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, I was bad. I even got into some debt, the credit card.
But even before you left the house, so before you left the house, you get little allowances or little monies here and there?
No, we didn't really get allowances. No? We just got what we needed. Yeah, we didn't get allowances. We tried, maybe my mom tried to give us some every now and again, but we were too many that we couldn't keep it steady.
See, and I guess that's what really helped for me was that my mom was a photographer. So then my mom had, besides her Monday to Friday work, she had work on the weekends, doing, quinceaños and weddings and stuff like that. So she always needed a salesperson or someone to do, errands for the pictures and stuff like that. So she'd always pay me to go help her out, set up and everything. So that would give me a little bit of financial independence in the sense where I could be like, okay, I just got to work this much. And hey, the better I am at it, the more money I make and stuff.
That's right.
So it's like sales sometimes.
And that's what I did with my son too. Growing up, I didn't know about money until later in life. And so when I did have my son, I was like, no, I'm going to teach him how to, budget himself and stuff. So I did incorporate giving him an allowance, but that's something that I had to try to do myself.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah. And and something about the, these connections, these intimacies, as you could call them, physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. And like I said, I say financial because sometimes, we attach feelings to this money that we don't have.
Absolutely.
We might want to make, just start spending it.
Yeah.
We might want to make investments in ourselves sometimes, whether it could be something as simple as fixing our teeth, or it could be something as simple as, getting a boob job or something for women and stuff. Yeah. And it's like, whoa, I didn't know that's, you're with a partner and don't know that that's where they want to spend the money.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, what's important to you? It's like, well, if they didn't have the money before, now that they have the money or they have a savings, it's kind of like, oof, man, is this an emotional thing? Are you fixing something, or are you trying to replace something?
Yeah.
You know, so
and it's huge. It's huge. Now, why do you think we're talking about this? Seriously, I'm noticing now more than ever that my friends and just people around me are going through crisis. You know, opinions are being thrown out there more than ever. You know, and if you're with a partner, you have to be on the same page, or else you're going to feel like you need to defend something.
And that would probably come into the intellectual part, where people or thoughts and opinions are basically, you know, how they think. And the thing is that, just like what they say, everybody's got an opinion.
Everyone has an opinion.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, you know, it's one of those things we have to really realize and respect other people's opinions.
Yeah.
I seriously, I am really good at respecting other people's opinions.
Are you?
Now,
I'm joking.
Now, I will say I do like a challenge. You know what I'm saying? Of course, if the person is in for a challenge.
If they're open to debate, you'll feel it. You'll feel it
exactly.
out. Okay,
you know, and I love it because you know what? I changed opinions? Of course I have.
Yeah.
That's how I got to where I'm at.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, hey,
same here.
Hey, I always tell people this, hey, put me on, go ahead. I would love for you to change my mind. Why? Because then I can grow and be like, oh, you know what? I see this. I see that.
Absolutely.
You know, so I don't mind, you know, going from one opinion to another. I don't have to die on that, you know, on that stand and be like, no, well, this is what I thought and this is what I know, or this is what whatever. If something sounds good to me and I put it into context with what I already know, I'm like, I like that. I like that. So I adapt other people's, you know, that's how you grow. You can't just sit there and just be stubborn about something and because it feels good or bad, that's how you remember or whatever it is.
And if you do, I really think like me, when I finally became open-minded, because we were brought up to be very religious. Okay. And so with that, you're closed-minded because everything else is Satan creeping in and wolf, you know, in sheep clothing. And so you got to be careful, mind you. You do have to be careful. So when you do feed yourself with knowledge, you want to make sure that you know that person because, you know, you want to try their fruit. At least that's how I see it. You know, you want to know what they have because it's like we said before, you can't be like, you know, someone very unhealthy and then tell someone how to diet right, or someone that is very broke and tell someone how to do their finances. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that, you know, in regards to religion is one of those topics where it's like it's very tough to talk to people because it's a lot of emotion in there.
Yeah.
The maturity in that it takes a lot of some people because the struggles they've gone through, they stick that emotion on whatever it is that overcame them. So whatever religion helped them overcome stuff now is empowered with all that emotion.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes it's driven by what they've already done and they're like, I need you to understand me or see me.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that they have to respect the other person, what they understand and seen too.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's very difficult to have a discussion with people about religion because it's just one of those things where too much emotion.
I agree with that. However, I was so thankful that I did because, like I said, I had pride, right? The religious was there. You gotta, you know, you don't want to open your mind to anything else other than that. But when I started speaking to people that were very powerful to me, you know, who really knew the Bible, and I started really like, instead of just being, well, I don't like that, they started to like make me understand that I had set a bar in my head that was too high. And that's why I was so like defeated every time. I was like, well, I can't do that. That's from Satan. I can't go there because I mean, that's a Satan, that everything, like I played board games and stuff like that's Satan. And let me tell you, a lot of times you start to see it yourself. And when somebody, and I think this is where you learn when you don't, you know, when you're a kid and you don't feel like you have control, you shut your mind. That's what I was doing, I believe. Because when I finally just started giving ear and then I started reading the word myself, I started to get that information from the Holy Spirit myself. Like, hey, that was fun, right? That was fun. But did you hurt somebody in that? Well, it was challenging. And I was like, yeah, you know? And so like it was correction in that sense where it was like self, I feel. So I don't know. I think that was a beautiful thing. Also, another beautiful thing is, remember our last guest, Fabian, loved loved talking to him, especially after the show.
Oh my God, I know. We should have kept
We
recording.
had an amazing time. It was so cool because I wanted to understand him, and he was open enough to try to understand me, and I started to see, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Some of the things that the religious aspect is with Catholicism, I think is true. Like sometimes we do things like it's just, oh yeah, like the hostia that we're talking about, you just take it and you're just like, yeah, God died for me. But the way he presented it to me,
so beautiful.
Yeah, it's like, no, you really got to understand that it's a big part of what we know. And I'm just like, that is true. It is super deep. It's deeper than just taking that bread.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like we've talked about before, there's a lot of people that take it and don't respect it at all.
Right.
And there's someone like him and stuff that respects his religion, because it doesn't matter what religion you come from. Like I said before, I think the biggest thing is respecting yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, we treat people, it's like they say sometimes, act like God is in this room while you're talking to someone and acting like someone. We don't act that way.
Yeah.
Imagine if God was standing in that corner while you talk or act a certain way. It's like, yeah, right. There's not a lot of people that are going to act or do these things, Yeah. So even though we all know that God's watching and we understand that he is, we, just don't.
But it's important to know that change is part of life, and that crisis also serves as a test to refine our faith, I believe. Yeah. There's been a lot of times, I'm not going to say a lot of times, but in my own relationship, there was a time that I was about to be like, I don't know, I think I might be done, and I really had to step back and understand that it wasn't just one thing. It was a lot of things that were piling up on me. It was myself changing. It was the world, the whole world around me was changing. And instead of giving it to God, I started making actions of my own. I would pray about the situation, but then I would add to the chaos. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I really want to throw out there, that, everything is seasonal, everything is temporary, but it's our faith and really giving it to God and just praying about it. Something spectacular that I thought about. I didn't just think it out to nothing, right? Because I listen to a lot of preachers. I read a lot. And so one thing that did stick out is that when God made Adam and Eve, and just the whole world, when he began the world, he never told us that, hey, you guys need to make a table if you guys want to eat a little bit higher. He didn't. He gave us the resources. He gave us the tree. And you have to have that idea, because he gave us this amazing brain with the capability to make ideas, and you go out there and use the resources he gives you. That's like prayer. You got the things around you. You just got to pray and think about how you're going to problem solve this with yourself, not forcing others, but inwards, and doing it with love. And you will reap, I believe.
And it ties into intelligence and also the other part of P.I.E.S, which is the S for spiritual. So there is some part of religion that is opinion and use your intelligence and facts. And then there's other parts where there's a spiritual part. Yeah. And we go through these journeys. And when you're with a partner, sometimes, depends on where we are. We're not always, we would like to be together like this. But there's times where, one might start to wander this way, the other one's up here, and then vice versa. And that's why it's so difficult to be like, there's just so many changes that we do in our lives and so many, challenges. There's times that, people, I know that you could say in my life, I've never been angry with God, but I have questioned him,
right.
So I've questioned, it's like, I think it's one of those like, why, it's like, I've questioned the heck out of him. Like, dude, it's like, what's going on? It's like, it's like you question him and then realize that what you're really doing is just, you need to question yourself of what you are doing and what is your belief and understanding. So it's one of those things where, it's relationship with a partner is difficult, because there's only so much we can do as a partner sometimes to support, our our partner,
Yeah.
whether they need, you need to step back a minute and let them navigate for a little bit, but you got to keep yours. And there's times that maybe they have to step back and you've lost your way for a minute. And,
and you said something strong right there, the maturity level. I didn't realize it. I kept thinking like spiritual, but if you really just totally dumb it down to the simplest form, it is maturity.
It is.
I think, I say I was because now I don't think that anymore. But I think for a big part of my relationship with my husband, I think I was the more spiritual, mature one. Right. Mm-hmm. And so if that was true, mm-hmm. then I should have really stopped to think about me being the bigger person in every argument, in every situation. Like, you got to think about this in the sense where, just recently I heard from a pastor, you can always win the argument, but at what cost?
Well, I've said it before. It's like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
That's it. That's
it. I'm saying? So sometimes, and that comes with maturity.
That's right.
And it's so hard. And that's why, like I said, there's different types of maturities in different aspects of our lives. And spiritually, maturity, I pretty much, after I got to a certain point, I kind of stopped questioning God because I understand. It's like, I'm there. Do I still feel a certain way? Do I still... Yeah, but I mean, there's just no reason to question God. And when you understand it, it's
absolutely.
It's just, it is what it is.
That's exactly what happened. Is that my husband, who was trying his best to understand the situation, and I was like, but you don't see it, but you're not understanding it, and then I had to take a step back. I remember I was praying, and at this time, I actually had separated myself from him. Like, I was sleeping over here, or not sleeping, but I was over here the majority of the time. He was over here, and that did come up to me, like, yeah. So are you forgiving him? That looks like you're forgiving him, all right. And I was just like, don't get out of my head. I am forgiving him, but it's like, well, you're over here and he's over here, and you're you're madder than he is. And I understood, as mature people, who doesn't get mad and is like, you know what, I've been doing this for so long, I'm throwing in the towel, I can't stand this anymore. But this is why it's so important that if we are the more mature one that we claim to be, right, then you should have a process, which is go to your small group, go to a mentor that can listen. It's not just a friend. It's like someone at a high level where they can actually help you to take this apart and say, hey, you're tired, and it's okay. We all get tired.
The biggest thing I feel, especially in these situations, is expectations.
Oh, yes.
That I think that's the one thing that we expect certain things.
Yeah.
And when things don't happen like they're supposed to be expected, then that's what it comes down to. And then when you tell yourself, I'm willing to forgive, it's like you have to ask yourself, but have I asked for forgiveness?
Absolutely.
So it's like so once you start thinking about it, if he or she, comes up and says sorry, then I could do that. It's like, well, then if you've already thought of it, then maybe you should say sorry.
Yep.
What is it that you want? You want, a chance for that person to apologize, and then since you thought about it, then hey, why don't you do it?
Yep.
And it's a lot easier said than done, trust me. And not every single time you have to do it right away. It's gonna take some time and work because we have to reprogram this, this brain of ours and stuff like that about, what we want to do with our decisions.
Yeah. And do you have to be so defensive?
The key. It's like if you want to if you want an apology, then apologize and take the first step for that person to then take that, and because it doesn't matter who apologizes first, as long as you guys are both on the same page.
Yeah.
That you want better things, then. And it's when we get into these challenges, and again, I'm guilty of it. So it's like I understand that and it's a sad thing when you better yourself. And I feel like I got to a point where I bettered myself, and maybe you can relate, where how bad you were.
Yeah.
And then and so when
I know where I came from.
and you better yourself,
Yeah.
you kind of you kind of justify yourself like, no, you don't understand. I would have gotten really mad before, but this time I'm not as mad. So I need you to recognize that, right? So it's like, no, that's not how it works. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate. It's unfortunate. No matter how much growth we is, it's not for nobody else but ourselves. So we can't put it on anybody else because everyone's in different stages.
And I'm touching on this because I'm hearing a lot of my dear friends and a lot of family as well that are going through a lot of shifts in life, in their thinking, in feeling defeated because one of them are either like into all this politics that's happening and they're very passionate, and the other one is just like, well, it's just okay, I get you, but I don't want so much negativity in my world. And it's like there's a lot of struggle there because you're not understanding, and it's like we got to find a middle here, because we got to understand that troubles produce perseverance and hope. It really does. And it's only a season. Right now, all this that's happening, it's seasonal. And we got to dig in our hearts and just think of a way to love and encourage. Encourage your partner. I love how you're looking all into this stuff because I'm not. Tell me about it, but you can't get defensive, like so much.
It's almost like the thing about it is that you know another thing that we say we shouldn't talk about is politics.
Mm-hmm.
So, then we got politics, which are basically the intellectual part of it, because we think we know what we see, but in reality, politics is like a TV show.
Right. And right now I see a lot of aggression, anger, and fear. Like those are like the biggest ones that are coming at us. And that's why I'm busy.
So the thing is that, you start doing intellectual with emotional now.
Yes.
So it's like that emotional maturity where it's like, respecting people's opinions, respecting people's things. Intellectual, where you're like, come on, let's not be so. We think we're smart because they're facts, but sometimes it's about what you hear or what you see. But those aren't always the facts. We make them facts.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think number one, it says here that we should acknowledge God as the foundation, right? When your faith, right? When you have faith within your matrimony, always remember that God is the foundation, and then commit to unifying each other. Unity. If you are that more mature person, right, that you claim to be, forgive the person, and find a way to speak to them with, I think, curiosity, because it's not what you say, it's how you say it many of the times, right?
Yeah, the thing about it is that now we're going to something else, which is called vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that nobody wants to show vulnerability because it hurts when it's not reciprocated.
Well, if you're mature, though, it should. Well, it's always one or the other, right?
Well, and that's what I'm saying, and that's what I mean. Though the thing is that if you're not mature enough in that, then showing vulnerability is going to hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the problem. A lot of us, don't want to say, we watch a show and it's like, one of the couples are together and it's like, I already feel like I love him, but I can't say it first. I need him to say it. And it's like, and it's like, but she says she feels it, but she's like, but I want to hear him say it first.
But if you were mature, you would communicate with grace and truth in a way where it's like, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Let them say what they.
But the thing is that mature to see, the thing is that they're not understanding that they might be mature in the fact that they're sure of themselves. Like the fact of it, yes, I can say I love them, but see, it's the vulnerable part, it's the emotional part that they're not mature.
That's true.
They can't. There's some people that just cannot take negativity.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say not negativity, but let's just say, hey, how did you like that soup? And someone might be like, it tasted a lot like tomato. It was a little too tomato-ishy. And people get offended.
Well, listen, you got to know who you're talking to. That's why you got to meet the people where they are. Like we've talked about this before, right? Even your wife is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you say that to her. I need feedback in like all realism. Like I need to know truth. And, other people, they say it, but their character and they really kind of can't. So you need to know, as the more mature person, Oh, you need to know as a mature person, like where that is, and you just need to laugh about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there definitely is, again, ways to take certain things. You know, like I've learned, right? It's I think it's too tomato-ish. You know, instead of saying something like that, you might be like, oh, well, I prefer with less tomato. It's of how you make it more personal to you than attacking their recipe or whatever it is.
My go-to one as far as that goes, someone says, "Oh my gosh, did you like it?" I would I always say don't ever say bad things without a solution behind it because that for me that's huge.
Okay.
So instead of being like
Hey,
it's
you
too
like that?
tomatoey.
You like that? Hey, do you like that fruitcake I made the other day? What would you say?
Yeah, I would love to maybe not use that papaya. I'm not really a big papaya person, but I thought everything else on top with the honey and everything was great.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna make you a fruitcake without papaya next time.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know what a fruitcake is,
Yeah.
but like I've never eaten one. But you know what I'm saying? Like I always come at it in that way because I don't want them to give me that again.
Yeah.
And then me insult them and be like, I really didn't like it.
Yeah, it's like I just don't prefer papaya or whatever, or I don't care for papaya, but it was very moist, it was very good.
Right, right.
You find the make it personal and then find the good in it.
Yes.
So no negatives,
No, no, no. I always give the negative as far as
Well,
like
not a
I
negative.
don't like
No,
the
but
papaya
no,
personally.
but that's the thing, though. I don't think it's a negative because you're personalizing it. Like,
Right.
if you say, "Yeah, your papaya, yeah, that papaya wasn't ripe," then it's more towards them. But if you're like, you know what, I just don't prefer the papaya, I think it's good.
Or even like bananas. Some people like bananas to be like yellow.
Yeah,
Some
see.
prefer it to be like black.
Yeah.
And it's because it's sweeter.
See,
That's
I like mine green.
see, that's crazy.
Like it's got to
It
be
has
a
like
little
this
bit.
musk to it that I just cannot
No.
stand.
It can't be crispy though.
Ooh.
It's that green yellow part, right?
Oh, wow.
Right where it's not like it's hard, where it's got that musk, like
Yeah.
feeling of fiber. Like
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
bite it, like,
Yeah.
oh man, it has a fiber.
Yes.
Okay, not that part. A
Wow.
little bit right yellow where it's still nice and firm and it's not as sweet.
There you go.
That's how I
There
like
you
mine.
go. That's awesome. But yeah, so yeah, so what I took out here to align you and your partner is like we said, number one, acknowledge God as foundation, right? So start always with sharing your faith and mutually submitting, right, in the authority of God, which he said always. Two, commit to lifelong unity. So remember that the marriage is a covenant, not a contract, right? So we want to work together and we want to embrace each other as one. And then communicate with grace and truth, right? So prioritize being respectful and honest with each other, and the communication with your partner. Meet them where they're at. Okay, if you know that there's a certain way about certain things, don't hit that part. Walk in forgiveness and mercy. That's a big one that you touched on there. So growing always in your mistakes. Always it helps us to be aware and grow together, and they don't always feel like, oh, you're a know-it-all, right? Because we acknowledge our mistakes. 5 is stay intimate emotionally and physically. Make time for connection.
And that's another one that we talk about in P.I.E.S, which is physical maturity.
Yeah, see, that's
physical maturity. Making sure that you're comfortable with yourself, comfortable of communicating with your partner what you like.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, to be to have a healthy physical relationship.
And one thing is submit to another with love. With love. I strongly believe now that if the other person doesn't change, they're the ones that are going to make the steps that start to compromise things, not you. They are. I noticed that. Like they start fizzling themselves out in a way that it's like, ooh, what's going on with that? And that is between them and the creator, because you start to get these feelings. And as long as you don't react, I'm a firm believer, because I saw my husband, like I said, I used to think I was more spiritually mature, but he started to align himself. So, and it wasn't me. I can't say I did it. I think that was between him and God.
The thing about it is that I feel that we all go into relationships and to be honest, thinking that we don't need any work. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
So let's just say like your husband, he might have went out and talked to somebody. He went out and looked for some help spiritually to see where he's at, to ground himself and whatever. And the thing is this, we get into relationships and we're not prepared. The thing is that we're not prepared for what we're dealing with, and then we're not prepared for what they bring to the table. So it could be overwhelming sometimes, or it could be not enough. So it just depends on how we are. So that's what's constant work. Maybe you don't want to go see a therapist. Maybe you want to go talk to someone spiritually. Maybe, you want to look up something. No matter what, though, do something. Do something to try to understand yourself first, so you can then understand the next person.
Because if you notice, if you're starting to question a lot of things, look at your habits. Have they changed? Are you still going around that same circle, like that same, what is it called? The little gerbil wheel? I mean, change it up a little bit, and you're going to see that little tweak that you make is going to tweak everything else around you. Just a little bit.
You got to question yourself sometimes and realize, what is it that emotionally, because the emotions, like I said, there's a difference between feeling emotion without control and feeling emotions with control. And that's where we talk about the whole, emotional maturity. So with that said, we talked about pies, and, you guys got to ask yourself, what slice of pie do you struggle with? So it's like, slice? What's your slice about? So, because remember,
there's no growth
without pain.
Until next time.